What is up, 2K crew? Yes, it is. We're coming to you at 1 o'clock this week instead of 8 o'clock. And since we got 2Ks back in the studio, I think it's going to be kind of our target time now. So kind of adjust your schedules. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, but 2Ks has the little 2K members to put to bed. So this works out even better. So 2Ks, man, I'm pretty pumped about this show because I'm pumped and scared because we're going to talk bracketology. We're going to break down some of this. There's still a lot of basketball left to be played, and fingers crossed that it can be played. So, ladies and gentlemen, strap in because you have found the Turbo and 2K show.
It's the Turbo and 2K show.
All right. Well, like I said, if you're new to the stream, I am Ryan Turbo Jackson, the host, and my co-host across the table for me is the luscious Kyle 2Ks Kaler. So, what we do on these streams is we give you our amateur advice on everything sports, and most people kind of like that because we don't yell and scream at each other, and we do have a very what I've been told a very good chemistry together. So, but 2Ks, let's jump into. What should we do here first? Let's do this. And I did want to, if you guys aren't, like I said, if this is your first time, we do have a Facebook group. It's facebook.com/group/2K crew. And that's where all of the fans of our show hang out and kind of, I tell you what, if you want breaking sports news, 2K's back me up on this one. The 2K crew pretty much posts it before it's even breaking news on ESPN. So get on over there, get in the group. And one of the things I did post in the group this week was who is the best team in the Big Ten? Because, Kyle, we've been going back and forth on this pretty much for the last couple of years now. It's not a fluke just this year. When it comes to the deepest and best conference in college basketball, I think it's hands down the Big Ten.
Absolutely.
You know, once we get into this, you know, I'll show a slide of how exactly the Big Ten stacks up, and then we'll kind of give you our projections. You just kind of mix the word together there real quick of how many teams you're going to get in, and it's kind of weird to see. I was watching Lenardi's bracketology and how few SEC teams are getting in, how few ACC teams are getting in. And I think these spots are going to be overtaken by a very powerful Big Ten conference. But I posted the poll: who's the best team in the Big Ten? Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, or Ohio State? There's one more. Yep, there it is. Now, I have to say that I did vote for Michigan. I'll put it right out there. Even with all this Notre Dame stuff, I mean, you can see that I am on board with this team. You know, ever since the Juwan Howard hire, I thought that was an extremely good hire, and he's done nothing but great things since. And without looking at this 2Ks, what is your guess as to who the 2K crew voted for? Mostly.
I would say Michigan. Michigan would probably be the most popular one.
And I think A, that has to do with how good they're doing. And B, maybe some local fandom.
Yeah.
I mean, and shockingly enough, Ohio State got 0. Which, unless you're a huge Big Ten fan, you know, we are located in Michigan, so it does kind of make sense that there is quite a big Michigan fandom. But however, Iowa and Illinois both got 1 vote, and I think the Iowa vote is kind of that one's kind of. I definitely know Nick Berry, so he is located in Iowa. So that's probably why he voted for it.
I mean, Iowa definitely has the best player, I think, in the Big Ten.
Absolutely.
I think out of the 4 teams that we're talking about, they're the number 4 team, though. But then I think that's the easy part. I think is to kind of slate Iowa in there as that 4 spot, and then trying to figure out your top 3 between Michigan, Ohio State, and Illinois. That's tough. I've you know, if you go back a couple weeks ago, before Michigan was shut down and was not able to, you know, step foot on a basketball court for 2 weeks.
I'm saying it was like 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah,
like.
And before that, I would say it was easy. Michigan was the best team in the Big Ten. But since they've come back, yes, they've won both games, but it's not the same team that we were watching. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get there.
Get that flow back.
Yes, yeah. And today, right now, as we're recording, they're tipping off against Ohio State.
Which is 6-6, by the way.
And, this game to me could go either way. I think there's a good chance that these teams play against each other again.
Sure.
This game today might be kind of one that doesn't really. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but if they play again, it's going to be a bigger game than the one today. But and then you kind of forget about Illinois. You don't we haven't really heard a whole lot out of them, as far as of late. But yeah, I mean the Big Ten is so good. I mean I can think of probably 10 teams. 9 teams at least that are going to be in the big dance. So you just can't say that about any other conference.
No, and I totally agree. And I've time set aside just to discuss the Big Ten. And like I said, how many teams we think are going to get in, and how many are where they're where Lenardi projects them to be seated. So we will get to that. We will get to that. But I did want to let if. Anyone out there, if you do want to support the channel, if you love what we do, if you love our content, go to buyturbobeer.com and buy us a beer so that we can help the show get even better and bring you guys even better content. But we love you anyway. But if you are feeling froggy, go to buyturbobeer.com and buy us a beer. And I did have a part sectioned off for this, but pockets were tight this week, and we, like I said, we love each and every one of our 2K crew, everyone that downloads the podcast wherever your podcast material is from, all the YouTube subscribers and viewers, and we're up to 222 YouTube subs. So if you're liking what we do, like, subscribe, comment, and turn on the notifications so you do not miss any of our content. And yes, when it comes to YouTube, I do post more than just this show. So I do post some shorts that I find kind of interesting. So you might find it interesting. So, well, let's jump into, excuse me as I blow your eardrums out, the top 16 seeds. Now, this is going into this weekend, which they're even going back to yesterday was quite. I mean, there were so many good games yesterday. Sparty got a big win. I'm not saying that they're going to shake things up or anything. I think they're too far.
They might shake up the NIT this year,
if there is an NIT. So, but no, they are. If you're a State fan, you're glad to see at least some progress out of this crew, but I think they put themselves too far behind to even make any sort of run in anything. So it is not going to be January, February Izzo this year. But off the top of the dome, Gonzaga is the number one overall seed. Then Baylor, then Michigan, then Ohio State, which I think it's kind of cool that there's, especially even more cool with the Big Ten that they're having 2 representatives being 1 seeds. Not really sure when the last time that has happened for any conference, but I'm sure it's happened. It's just I haven't really paid that close of attention to it, just because it's they're not bouncing around in my backyard, I guess. But yeah. So, do you think that to me, these top 4 seeds are kind of givens.
Mm-hmm.
The way everything has played out. Like we said, there is a lot of basketball to be played. There's a lot of potential, kind of breaks. Like we're not going to say the C word, but potential breaks like Michigan had, and hopefully that going forward, that those breaks don't influence the tournament that badly, or for seeding or anything like that. And we still have the Big Ten title, the Big Ten championship. So, as we know, Big Ten teams usually tend to beat the shit out of each other. Whether it's football, basketball, which again, to me, that's one of the fun parts of watching Big Ten basketball. Even like I said, as a Notre Dame fan, I'll say it all day. I love watching Big Ten basketball. To me, they're the most entertaining conference to watch. top to bottom. But I mean, like I said, the top four are kind of set in stone. No matter what happens, in my opinion, no matter what happens with this Ohio State Michigan game today, as we're recording, I don't think it's going to make any difference when it comes to the seeding. However, if either one tends to slip up going down the chute, then that's a different story.
Yeah,
but
and both of these teams today, Michigan, Ohio State, both. I think both of them have 3 games left, and I know that each one of them play against Iowa one time. So,
which is never easy.
Yep. Actually, Michigan's next game is middle of the week here, and it'll be against Iowa, and then after that, Ohio State plays Iowa next weekend. So
down with Mr. Garza, who.
So that to me gives Illinois the opportunity if one of those teams slip up,
True.
and that gives Illinois if Illinois does what they're supposed to do and wins their games. I think let me look at Illinois' schedule. The rest they have Michigan State, Nebraska, and Wisconsin, so all very winnable games for them. The possibility of Michigan or Ohio State slipping up against Iowa, that to me would open the door for Illinois to move into that top 4 spot.
Yeah, and there's like I said, I tried to find, because I mean it was all over ESPN, to where the top 16 seeds and where they kind of fell and who were the 2 seeds, who were the 1 seeds. Did you happen to find anything like that? 2Ks over there?
Everything I'm finding is like the bracket all completely
huge bracket,
blown up. Yeah.
But to me, with this, going forward, well, let's just say this, 2Ks. Out of the top 4 seeds, who do you think is the best? I mean, granted, Gonzaga is the number 1 overall seed. But who, in your opinion, out of the 4 are the most complete and best team out of the 4?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I know that Gonzaga is the number 1 team. I just can't give them. It just goes to the schedule that they play every year, And I get it that they at the beginning of the season they play some really good opponents, but that first week, 2-3 weeks of the season, we don't really get a good gauge for these teams. Yet a lot of these teams don't really hit their stride until the middle of the season, the rest of the way out. Obviously, what Michigan has done this far, and it's by far the best conference in college basketball, and they've kind of just went through it and beat some very good teams, pretty single-handedly. But they haven't played against Ohio State until today. They haven't played against Iowa until next week. They haven't played against Illinois. So they haven't played against those top teams in the Big Ten yet. So I'm not really ready to give it to them. I guess if it was to me, Baylor to me right now, as far as the eye test of watching them, they're, in my opinion, they're the best team in college basketball right now. They're the team to beat. If I was going to be filling out a bracket today, if I put my fandom to the side and not go Michigan, and just kind of go off the eye test and go off who I believe is the best team in college basketball right now, I think it would be Baylor.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'll go. I'm very strong in my conviction on this. If we were doing our March Madness brackets today, I would fill out. I mean, Baylor would win pretty much all my brackets. I usually do 3 or 4, but I would have Michigan winning 1, but the other ones would be Baylor. I think that they're the most complete team. The Big 12 is no joke. I mean, they're as far as the power conferences are concerned, I think they're right behind.
They're possibly
the
second best conference in basketball right now.
I mean, in quietly doing it. I mean, it's at least with the basketball that I watch. I mean, obviously, living in Michigan, we get quite a lot of Big Ten hoops, and then when it doesn't seem like ESPN really gives. I think I've seen 2 Baylor games all year, and I don't think that ESPN is giving them kind of their due, I guess, because it pains me to say it, because when it'll be like the Super Tuesday where it'll be a game at 7, a game at 9, and a game at 11, and the game at 11 is going to be the Pac-12, and some of the worst announcing ever, but if you turn it down and put a card break on or something, at least it's tolerable. But because Bill Walton will kill any.
Oh God.
Someone needs to tell him that the Pac-12 has not been the tournament or the Conference of Champions in probably two decades. Pretty much probably whenever. Damn, that was a vicious block. Probably the last time UCLA won the national title was probably the last time that they were even, the Pac-12 is even relevant. And 9 times out of 10, when you are watching them, it's an Oregon game, and that court is just. It really does make it hard to watch. But that being aside, maybe that's me being an old man and standing on my soapbox. But it's my soapbox, and I'll stand on it whenever I want to. but it just doesn't seem like anyone's giving Baylor their due diligence, and even, like I said, ESPN even putting them on TV. And like I said, I sit here and do my video edits and watch my TV that's right up here, and you hardly ever see Baylor. Unless they're on a night that I choose not to be in here, but I highly doubt it. But yeah, to me, like I said, they're top to bottom, and they really haven't had any hiccups. To even bring into.
They're 17-0. I mean,
yeah, they haven't had a chink in their armor, and their 17-0 is more. You can back it up with good wins as opposed to Gonzaga being undefeated.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at just in the last month of basketball with Baylor, and they've beat teams like Kansas. The powerhouse that Kansas has been for years, and Texas. And then you go into...
Texas is one of the most up-and-coming teams with Shaka Smart.
Absolutely.
When it comes tournament time, do not sleep on them fuckers.
Another very good team, Texas Tech. And we saw the run that they made in the tournament. Not obviously not last year, but the year before. The deep run that they made, and they beat them. So West Virginia, another very good team this year, kind of come out of nowhere. Because we haven't really talked about West Virginia.
You can never count Huggy out.
No, but the last few years they just haven't been as good. But this year, another very good team, and beating them. And then you look at after that you go and you look at Gonzaga and their recent schedule and who they've beaten. Absolutely, they've been blowing basically the doors off of these teams. But San Diego, St. Mary's, San Francisco, Santa Clara, BYU. Not one of those teams is ranked. Not one of those teams is even talking about Pacific. I mean. The schedule that they're playing, it's very, very easy for them. Yes, going undefeated, you deserve to be a number 1 seed. If you're Gonzaga we obviously know the system that they have and how good that they have been for a long time. I mean, basically since Mark Few has started coaching there, they have been legit. They've been right there in the picture. But when you play this schedule, it's so hard to when you get into the actual tournament and you start playing against some of these teams. Yeah, you probably are going to blow through that 16 seed in the first round because that's basically every team that you've been playing in your conference all year. But then you get into that next round, and you're playing that 9 or 8 seed in that game, and a lot of times you see Gonzaga kind of give that game up or come close to giving that game up because they're finally playing against the first legit opponent since the first month of the season, and. It's an eye opener for them, I think, and it's an eye opening experience. And when you play against, and I get it, they can't do anything about their conference. No. That's the conference that they're playing in. But I think that's going to continue to hurt them year in, year out when the games actually do matter and the tournament starts. And that's why I never when I'm filling out my own bracket at home. There's never a time where I could pick Gonzaga to win it all because of just the simple fact that they play against a very, very mediocre schedule every single year.
And, it's very similar to when Boise State was making their run in the football side of things. They were always, them in TCU, it always seemed like, they were just blowing people out, but, they were beating people that they were, put in front of them. The only difference is with basketball as compared to football is you play more games in the tournament and you get your weaknesses are exposed earlier, I think. And one team that we're not even talking about is Oklahoma State, and they've got possibly the number 1 pick overall in Cade Cunningham. Yeah. Are they a complete team? No, but Cunningham can catch fire, and I've seen him do it because almost all of their games it seems like are on ESPN, and the kid is good. He's rightfully so the number 1 overall pick so far. And And when it comes to the tournament, this is something speaking of players, we'll kind of go off on a tangent here for a little bit. But speaking of players, you and I were talking about last year when it came to the draft and how this draft seemed kind of lackluster compared to the previous years, because there's a lot of times some of these players make their names for themselves in the tournament. Even going back to Steph Curry and Davidson. Mm-hmm. How many of us would have actually known who Steph Curry was had him and Davidson not made that run in the tournament, which I think led to him being drafted in the first round, or even being a lottery pick, which even at that time there were still people calling the Warriors nuts mm-hmm. for quote-unquote reaching for Steph Curry. So kind of something to think about too, because I was chatting with a couple buddies, and I'm like, granted, Lonzo Ball we've heard of. James Wiseman we kind of heard of, but only saw for like 3 mm-hmm. or 4 games. Mm-hmm. And Anthony Edwards, I watched a couple of his games, but did I know his game really well? Mm-hmm. No. So, and thankfully those 3 guys, Wiseman's had some issues with some injuries, but all in all, pretty good draft picks.
Yeah, they've been very good.
And I actually made a video because I apologized to Lonzo Ball, because if I were the Hornets, I would have passed on him completely, mm-hmm. just because of his family history and his name and all the hijinks that would have come with it. But he's kept his dad at bay, mm-hmm. So, and all he's done is ball out, and possibly the Rookie of the Year. So kudos to him.
Did you see the dunk that Edwards had this week?
Yes.
Oh
that
my
was
God.
That was sick. That was sick. So, but yeah, the reason I brought that up is, fingers crossed the tournament goes down, because to me, not only is it one of my favorite times of the year. I'm taking Thursday and Friday of that the first days off work, so I can indulge and not get just keep my focus, because it's the first time I've ever done this. I've always wanted to do it, to take the first 2 days off. So this is the year I'm going to do it. So, and yes, I almost totally forgot about this. I already had folks asking if we're going to do the bracket challenge. Yes, we are doing the bracket challenge. Once that's available on the ESPN Tournament Challenge app, I will make sure to get all that information out to y'all. So, and hopefully, fingers crossed, 2Ks, I'll have the website done by then. Mm-hmm. So if there's anyone out there that knows how to use fucking WordPress, let me know, because I'm about to bash my head through this fucking wall. Normally, I'm very good at figuring stuff like this out, but this is driving me nuts. But that's neither here nor there. So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for not having. I should have taken a screenshot when I saw this top 16. But all in all, I think when it comes to the top 16, we have the top 4 that I think most of us, when we do fill out our bracket, are just, and it's likely this way, most years, but I think this year it's even more relevant. Move those top seeds into the Final Four. Granted, some of us will, kind of waver, I think, on that Gonzaga, depending on how the rest of the bracket falls out or fills out. But I think it's the top 4, and then there's a shit ton, especially in the top 16. There's a shit ton of just extremely good teams that I think is going to make for an extremely exciting March Madness, because we didn't get one last year, so I'm super pumped to just get my I might fill out about 25 brackets this year.
I feel the same way, and I was going to say the same thing. It's like I feel like we were almost robbed of, for a lot of us sports fans. I know, especially myself. I think it's pretty safe for you to say it also. It's very obvious that baseball is definitely our favorite, but man, I don't know if there's anything as far as playoff, end of the season, the postseason. I'm just going to go with postseason play that tops college basketball. Just the tournament atmosphere, the games just being thrown at you for 2 days. Basically for the first 4 days.
4 of
the
them
tournament,
going on all at once.
Yes,
and it's like yes, and The best part is I have multiple TVs that I will be watching on, and my iPad, and my laptop. So I will probably have all 4 games going on all at once because, yes, I am that type of person. But there's like 5 things that I look forward to every year. Super Bowl, the World Series, fantasy football draft, and March Madness. Everything, I mean, those are my top 5 things that I look forward to every year. And I know you like to do drafts.
Oh, I love drafts.
So no matter what the draft is, but if you think about it, March Madness is like
It's
the
kinda
ultimate
like a
draft.
draft.
It's
Yeah,
the ultimate
absolutely.
draft. I mean, you're looking at, granted, there's many more players you can draft. However, I mean, it's basically a draft. And I know how you love your drafts, so I knew you would agree with me that yes, I think filling out the brackets is almost more fun than actually watching the games. I said almost, 2K crew. Don't think that I'm taking that the wrong way, but almost. But yeah, that's like I said, I'm disappointed in myself for not doing some more show prep for the top 16. But let's not dwell on that. Let's we've kind of teased it a little bit, the Big Ten, and I do have a slide here. I think. Nope, I don't. But hold on. We can do this. We can do another one real quick. Don't worry. Hang in there, folks. Time out. Talk amongst yourselves.
I mean, I'm just one of the things that kind of a team, not necessarily we're talking about the top 16, but a team that's in the top 16 right now. We've talked about the Big 10, we've talked about the Big 12, but a team that's always there and who I consider I think they have the best college basketball coach there is, and I'm gonna go with Villanova. Another team very similar season to Michigan. They were so good, but then they got they had the COVID thing come through, and they ended up having to shut things down. And they actually had to shut things down 2 different times throughout this season. They started things back up, and then they just shut down again. And I think you're looking at them now. They come off of a terrible game last week where they were just smoked by Creighton. But Creighton's another team that's right there in the top 20. They're a very good team too. But that's a team to watch out for. They might come in as like a 3 seed in this tournament or something. But with Jay Wright, who I consider the best coach in college basketball, always has his teams ready. Just kind of they're a team that even in years where they haven't necessarily been the favorite, they still seem like they make that Final Four run. I guess if there was a team kind of looking at on the outside that I was going to pick to possibly win it all, Villanova would not shock me.
That's the overlay that I was looking for, ladies and gentlemen. 2Ks, thank you for killing time. But so Big Ten standings. Right now, as it sits on today, February 20th, I believe. Nope, 21st. Michigan sits atop with Illinois 2, Ohio State 3, Iowa 4, Purdue 5, Wisconsin 6, Rutgers 7, which is really hard to believe that Rutgers is anything other than last in anything in the Big Ten. So big shout out to the Scarlet Knights. Indiana, Maryland, Minnesota, Michigan State, Penn State, Northwestern, and lonely Nebraska. Which, if I'm not mistaken, Nebraska I think has won 1 game this year, if I remember right. So, with that being said, 2Ks, do you see double-digit teams from the Big Ten going into the tournament?
Man, if you would have asked me this question probably last weekend or maybe the week before, I would have said there's a very good possibility. I think they're going to end up with 9. And that bubble team that does not get in is going to be Minnesota.
Yep.
And if you look at what Michigan lost to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Before right before they went down, and then Minnesota also has 2 wins against Ohio State. Ohio State's team only has lost 4 games all season. So when you look at that strength of schedule, which is a big deal, and then you look at big wins, that's another big thing that they throw into consideration. The thing that's gonna kill Minnesota is here just in the last week and a half they've lost three straight games. Illinois, Indiana, Maryland. Maryland and Indiana kind of the bottom. They're both, to me, both of those teams are going to be in the tournament. But I think that they're like maybe team 7 and 8 that come out of the Big Ten. So those are games that if Minnesota is going to make the tournament, they got to win at least one of those games to get in. They slipped on both of them. Now the only thing that they have left is Northwestern and Nebraska, who are 2 teams that are not going to make the tournament.
No.
So to me, with those 2 wins, it's not going to be enough to put them over the top unless something drastic happens with all those other bubble teams. So I think what happens is 9 teams from the Big Ten make it in, Maryland being that ninth, the last team to get in.
The only way I see 10 teams making it from the Big Ten is Minnesota makes a very strong run in the Big Ten tournament. Because, like you said, their remaining games, Northwestern and Nebraska, I think combined have 3 wins.
Or you see any of these bottom teams, go and win the tournament. I hate to say it, but you can't. You really can't count Tom Izzo out. He get these guys ready to go, and they win four games in a row, and they win the Big Ten tournament. Well, then they're automatic bid, and they're in. And I think I think Michigan State's going to go into this tournament with their back up against the wall, and their only opportunity that they're going to have, regardless of what happens these last 3 games, they're not going to make the tournament at this point unless they win that tournament. So. I hate to fucking say it because you know how I feel about Izzo, but the son of a bitch does win when the games really really matter, and then I'll have to listen to all these fucking fans talk about Mr. March
Izzo time.
because he won. He wins. I could see it now. He wins the Big Ten tournament and gets that team in, and then it'll just be our walls will be plastered with fucking Tom Izzo, Mr. March bullshit, and Yeah, but it would not shock me, and it wouldn't shock me if a team like Minnesota. Yeah. The one thing about Minnesota is they play very, very good defense, and they struggle to score the ball. But if they can go through that tournament and have 3 or 4 games where they can score, the defense isn't gonna. That's always a solid for them. But if they can score 3 or 4 games in a row, they're a very, very tough team to beat. Obviously, they beat Michigan and they beat Ohio State, 2 of the best teams in the conference. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and this is. Looking forward to the last couple games and the Big Ten tournament. If I'm not mistaken, as it sits right now, this would be the only conference losing season under Coach Izzo. So, if he wants to pull his big boy pants up and make some moves, this is the time to make moves. And because like you said, 2K's his back's up against the wall.
Yeah, and I don't. I mean, the realist in me is I just don't see it happening. And I've watched so much Big Ten basketball this year, and one thing that Izzo's a very good coach. I mean, I can say whatever I want to say about him, and I do. I think that he's an elite, top level coach. Absolutely not, but he's a very good coach. And but when you watch this team, not only have they just played really really bad here in the last month or so, but they're also not very talented. They don't line up with a lot of these. They just don't match up with a lot of these teams, especially the top 7, 8 teams in the Big Ten. They're just not talented. They're not as talented as those teams. So,
but then again, you've seen Coach Izzo work his magic on horrible. I shouldn't say horrible.
No, because he's always had those 5-star, 4-star recruits. I mean, he's out recruited. Michigan for years. I mean, even when Beeline was there at Michigan, Izzo always had the better recruiting class, with the exception of maybe 1 year.
Yeah, but it seems like, kind of the. Crappy is not the word, so please don't take that the wrong way. But the less talented the team usually is, the better. It seems like Coach Izzo gets the most out of a team like that.
He gets guys to stay.
Yeah.
There's so many schools where guys only stay 1 year, maybe 2 years you get out of them at best. And that's not the case with him. Izzo gets guys that probably at a lot of schools leave after a year or 2, and he gets those guys somehow to stay for 4 years. They buy into that. I don't know what it is, but for some reason he's able to keep them around.
It's eerily similar to how Coach Saban does his recruiting. You have 5 stars that don't get to play for 2 years, and somehow he gets he gets those 5 stars to buy into his program and be like, hey, if you sit for 2 years, learn under me, you're probably gonna be a first round draft pick. So, not to say that Izzo's churning out first round draft picks by any means, but he always fields a competitive team, and this is what every program does. Every program is going to have a down year.
Oh, absolutely.
You look at Duke this year. You look at Memphis. Memphis is atrocious. I've never seen a team under Coach Cal be this bad. Now, with Coach K, he's got his Blue Devils kind of turned around a little bit. At the beginning of the year, they were horrible to watch, played zero defense, and turned the ball over almost as much as they scored the ball. And now that you're seeing this, and you can kind of imagine, with all of the all the draft picks that he's produced in the last 2 years, especially going back, not this draft, but the draft before, when you have Zion, RJ, Cam Reddish. I mean, that's pretty much your whole fucking team. I mean, let's be honest. And those guys got all the hype. Those guys got all the playing time. So you when your top 3 scorers are gone, yeah, there's bound to be some disconnect somewhere. And especially with the new recruits coming in and stuff like that. So yes, when you've been kind of that legacy coach, like Izzo is, like Coach K, like Coach Cal, even Roy Williams in North Carolina, he's kind of having a down couple years. And we've seen the emergence of these younger coaches that have just been absolutely amazing. So are these teams, these coaches have earned the right to have a down season or two every now and again, is basically what I'm going after. But
I mean, we talked about it the last time that we talked college basketball in here, though, is I think we're just starting to see a little bit of a change now. I mean, a lot of these coaches are, I mean, I hate to use the word, but I just think a lot of them are a little bit outdated now. And I think that their voice is becoming a little bit old, and you're starting to see some really, really good coaches, some young guys that are coming up through, some guys that worked underneath some of these guys, and it's look, I mean, when you're younger, you get out, you can recruit more, you're more appealing to some of these kids, and it was just a matter of time, you're going to see the change but I think that the days of Coach K being able to recruit, the big 3 like he did there with the 3 that you mentioned, I just don't think that that's going to happen again. I don't think that you're going to see Roy Williams in North Carolina and Duke and Coach K and those two, just squaring off for the biggest game of the season like we've seen so many times with Duke and North Carolina over the years.
Oh, yeah. The Tobacco Road.
I don't think that though. I mean, do I think that those schools are going to be back? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to be those guys that are running it. I think it's going to be somebody else on those staffs or a new name or there's so many big time schools that are kind of or big time coaches that are not in very big schools, and maybe it's going to Duke's going to pull somebody like that away, or North Carolina or something like that. But
it's kind of if you kind of flip this to the NBA, I think you have to look at Greg Popovich. Greg Popovich is like the Coach K of the NBA. He's won everything. He did it quietly. However, I think if you're, one could argue that they got very, very fortunate in being able to draft Tim Duncan, and you had him and David Robinson, and then obviously Kawhi Leonard comes along. Regardless of what that relationship was, they won. Coach Popovich wins. He doesn't like flashy names, so Tim Duncan fit right in. I mean, and I was a huge Tim Duncan fan, huge. And everyone's like, "How can you be a fan of him? He's so boring." I'm like, "Because he's consistent,
fucking good."
I
don't. He's one of those guys. I don't understand how you couldn't be a fan of him.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
he doesn't talk shit. He doesn't have big time dunks. He doesn't shoot threes. So
he uses the backboard.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Mr. Fundamental. I mean, that's basically it's point proven. And most of the time these days, kids look for the flashy, like the Zion and stuff like that. Whereas when you have someone that's consistent like that, I guarantee all NBA teams would have loved to have him. Excuse me. Love to have him. And my throat's getting dry, so if you go to buyturboabeer.com, that might help out a little bit. But no, I find it, excuse me, rather similar. And we had talked about the NFL as well, with the new age coaches and stuff like that. And if you looked at the Super Bowl, those two coaches are old as fuck. Excuse me, sorry guys, but no, it's There's
two coaches that are very, very old, but two coaches that have a very, very young staff, a very young, up-and-coming staff, a staff full of people that not only have coached, been a head coach, but also guys that are soon, or their days are coming very, very soon for them.
I don't know why they haven't. Was it Byron Leftwich and Eric Bieniemy? Why neither one of those guys are head coaches, right now is fucking beyond me. But that's something that, kind of you and I talked about kind of off camera is that maybe they're not ready yet. Yes, there's certain dudes that are just, they flourish as a coordinator, but don't have the chops or just aren't seasoned enough or ready to take the head coach.
Or maybe they don't necessarily want to go right now.
So that's a whole other thing.
Some of these jobs that have been available lately, I don't know. I don't know how interested I'd be in taking over the Lions or the Jets or anything like that. Now,
Especially the Jets.
Give me like an opportunity to go for the Chargers. I got to think that job was probably everybody wanted an opportunity to go there because they have their quarterback. It's going to be their quarterback for probably ever.
Yeah. Yes.
And you can't say that about some of these other teams. So, but no, it's a matter of time. They're going to get their opportunities, and especially when they keep doing what they've been doing. So.
Hell, isn't it Greg Anthony? Isn't he the one that's behind Coach K? He's been waiting for 25 years to coach Duke basketball, it seems like. But, it's just a matter of time. And let's be honest. All these old guys that we're talking about, unless they go Joe Paterno on us, they're going to retire here in a little bit. So... But the schools that they work for aren't stupid, or at least they shouldn't be. They're not stupid. They're going to have a plan for when these guys step down. So everyone just calm the fuck down. I know there's been a huge uproar on Twitter and on Facebook and everywhere else about how these guys, or even on ESPN, how these guys should hang him up right now. These guys should hang him up right now. I'm not so sure that they're quite ready yet. I have a feeling that Coach K is going to have a team in the Final Four again before he retires. I have a feeling that Coach Cal is going to have 2 first-round draft picks again before he retires. Roy Williams will make his run at least to an Elite Eight before he retires. These guys have coached for a million years, and what they built their success on, their coaching style. Is it getting? I'm not saying it's getting old, but I think with their staff in place, their staff has to say, "Hey, we got to change shit up. Otherwise, we're going to continue like this." And I think, like you said, with Bruce Arians and Kool-Aid Man, they have talented staff around them, and I'm almost positive that every coach that we just mentioned has probably some of the brightest minds behind them as well.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we agree on mostly everything, but I just can't. I can't jump on board with any of that. The only one that I think that maybe still has some in the tank is Cal. Just because I think. He's got I think he's a little bit of a fucking shyster. Yeah. That he's got a little bit of that in him. I mean,
he's a salesman.
Yeah, exactly. He's a salesman. And I think he's definitely the youngest one of the 3.
Yeah.
Not that he's young, but I think the other 2 are just very. I think they're outdated. I said it earlier. I think they're very outdated. I think that their time is. I don't think they have very much time left to do it. I can say this about them: they've earned the right to go out on their time.
100%.
For somebody to say, "Well, they need to get out of here." No, they'll go out on their fucking time because they're the reason why. They're the ones that have built that dynasty. Basically, is what they've made. There,
and they'll all have statues out front of the arenas.
Absolutely. So as far as that, shut the fuck up and let them.
Isn't Cameron Indoor? Isn't the court? Coach K it on the court already. So, dude hasn't even retired yet. Yeah. And he's got his own fucking floor. Yeah. So, calm down.
Duke was nothing until he was there.
No, and now...
you can't say that about North Carolina. They were something before Roy Williams was there. But with Duke, they were nothing before him. So
They were like a lacrosse team, a lacrosse school before.
Coach K still wants to be coaching down there when he's 90 years old. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's nobody that can tell him any different because you guys would be nothing.
The man coached the Olympic team.
Yes.
And won gold medals with the Olympic team when the world had caught up to the United States and were better. I mean, how many basketball tournaments did we lose? 2 or 3, or didn't win gold, I should say. And Coach K was like, I got this. We can make this work. And he kind of turned the whole kind of Olympic basketball experience on its head because, when we first kind of took over was the dream team, and that was fucking ridiculous.
Well, one of the biggest things was because the nobody ever really necessarily caught up. I mean, none of these other countries were as good or better than the United States. The problem was the best players in the United States weren't fucking playing in it.
Right.
And that's where Coach K, when he took over it, he got the best players back into it and had them actually playing. Yes. Because if those guys would have been playing the whole time, there would have been, then there's no comparison. But that was to those guys back when the Dream Team, that meant something to them. And I think
Dream Team and Christian Laettner.
Yes. But the United States they forgot about they didn't even think about that. It was all about us. It was all about ourselves and myself and the NBA and what we got going on in the NBA. But never mattered about the country, the United States, and Coach K brought that back and made that a big deal again. And then ever since that's happened, they've won them easy.
Yeah, and it was even pre Dream Team, it was all the Olympics was you couldn't be paid, so you had a lot of college kids, amateurs, stuff like that. It's kind of like the baseball. You didn't see MLB players playing in the Olympics. And I remember vividly that Dream Team, and oh my gosh, that was, as a kid, that's what you wanted to see. You wanted, it was like an all-star team on steroids because they were all playing together instead of against each other. And as we saw in the Michael Jordan documentary, some of those practices are fucking intense, and I love every minute of it. And then once it gets to from his eyes was just amazing. And like I said, being a fly on the wall in those practices where they just absolutely beat the shit out of each other. Why? Pride. Pride. And it was so, if you watch the documentary, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it kind of seemed like that whole team took the Michael Jordan mentality while they were together. So yeah, that was, again, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. That's how excited I was about it. But yeah, so that's.
I mean, kind of going off on into a different category, but sticking with the Olympics is let's talk about baseball. Yeah. I mean, and you mentioned it there, where the actual players that are in the major leagues are not playing in it. We have amateur baseball players that are playing that, and to me, what would grow? I mean, MLB has been looking for different ways for the last 5-6 years on how to somehow grow their game. But they don't even look into the Olympics, and I know for myself, and I gotta believe that that with younger kids, the Olympics are very, very popular. Whether it's swimming. I mean, I can remember being young, not knowing a damn thing about swimming, only being able to maybe swim one down and back in my pool. But I was awake Phelps every single night to watch Michael Phelps in that. That was a big deal. And Absolutely. I think that, and I know that I've talked to so many people, over the years, and they would say the same thing, that they couldn't wait to be able to watch Michael Phelps try to win another gold medal. And I think it was in three. I think he was in 3 different Olympics, or maybe even 4.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was unbelievable, and
greatest Olympian of all time.
So why not try to use? One thing about baseball that makes the sport so special, especially Major League Baseball, is it's not just guys from the United States.
No.
I mean, it's a global sport. We have, some of the best players in all of baseball are coming from Dominican Republic, or coming from Venezuela, or coming from, I mean, the list just goes on. And why would you not want to use the Olympics platform for that?
Yeah,
I think
instead of the World Baseball Classic.
And get all the best players into it and make it a big deal. And to me, the Olympics would be like an entire, 2-3 weeks of like the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And we know how fun it is to watch the All-Star game because it's, they actually play in it. They don't. It's not like the All-Star basketball game or the Pro Bowl where it's just a big joke. They actually play. Football. They play, and it's the best of the best.
Thank God they took away the whoever wins gets home field advantage because that pissed me off.
I mean, there's 5-6 countries that could represent in the Olympics for baseball, and it would be like an all-star team. Well, probably more than that.
I kind of piggybacking on your point here. Got into a discussion with some folks in the 2K crew group, and because we were all talking about the Fernando Tatis Jr. contract, which to me I love it. I love every minute of it. They signed him. Yes, dude hasn't even hit arbitration yet. You know what that tells me? He's super fucking young. So you got him locked up for I think 14 years.
Yeah, and what is he, 22?
If that, yeah. So I mean, you have, I'm gonna spoil our one of our baseball episodes. But he's my pick for the MVP for the National League, and having him locked up and not locking him up with those getting close to 40 year, when he's 40, where they're shit years. I mean, you're locking him up for the his prime.
Mm-hmm.
We got into a discussion, and I said I totally love the contract. Not only is he going to be the MVP, but he if he's not already, he's going to be the face of Major League Baseball. And someone came back and said, no, that's Mike Trout. I disagree wholeheartedly. I'm not saying that Trout is less of a player than Tatis. What I'm saying is Tatis is going to be, if Major League Baseball does it correctly, and you've already seen more Fernando Tatis Jr. advertisements than you ever have Mike Trout advertisements. He's more marketable.
Mm-hmm.
Trout is he does this on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. It's not like he does it, like he's at fault. He doesn't want his face out there a lot. He doesn't want to be the center of, the face of baseball. He likes to be him. Mm-hmm. Whereas Tatis is the more colorful, flamboyant. He'll take this and run with it, and you're going to see him in more commercials, which ultimately is going to, A, bring more people to the ballpark in San Diego. It's going to help pay that contract, and B, is going to make baseball even more exciting because I guarantee you there's going to be more kids growing up that are going to say, I want to be like Tatis instead of I want to be like Trout. Why? Because Tatis looks like he has a whole lot more fun doing it. Like I said, I'm not downing Mike Trout whatsoever. Mike Trout is a legend. He's the best baseball player of our generation. Hands down. You can never take that away from the man. That's why he's paid $400 million. Tatis is getting paid close to that. And there's so many people like, well, maybe he's reached his ceiling. Who cares? Who cares? Marketing-wise, and to further prove my point, do you see more Bryce Harper ads than Mike Trout?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Why? Because everyone wants long hair. Everyone wants a beard. Everyone wants to mash like Bryce. Mm-hmm. He's the more colorful, flamboyant one, where I think Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to be way better than Bryce Harper. And
he already is way better than Bryce Harper.
Fuck yeah. And one thing, too, is that, and I'm going to say it, even though it might turn some ears, but he's Latin.
Mm-hmm.
How many more... There's way more Latin players in the league than white players. Let's just be honest. And how many of those Latin fans are passionate about their sport, passionate about their players, are going to buy merch from those players?
Mm.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? There's not going to be a doubt in my mind that Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to sell more jerseys this year. You're probably going to be hard pressed if you want a Padres hat or a shirt. You better order it now, because those are not going to last long. Because for fans like you and I that love baseball, we've known about this kid for years now. The common fan now is going to know about him. Hell, he's already got Gatorade commercials. And
which to me is a big deal because you're talking about somebody that's 22 years old and in the sport of baseball, and baseball has fucked this up year in, year out for years now. As far as how many big time baseball players have they wasted away because they're not worth a shit when it comes to marketing, and when it comes to marketing that sport and making it popular, they fuck it up all the time.
Yep.
And the other sports don't do that. The other sports don't do
the shit out of it.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
And here,
I mean, we're already behind, and you know who should. I get what you're saying on here, and I think a lot of people who are commenting on this are saying that Mike Trout is the face of baseball. No, he's not. He's the best player in baseball, and there's no arguing that.
No.
I won't argue that with anybody.
No.
He is the best player in baseball where we're at right now. But baseball already fucked it up with him. It's too late now because they should have jumped on this when the kid was 22, 23 years old and was starting out, and at the age of 23 he was already the best player in the game, maybe even the best player in the fucking history of the game. And now we're too late because he's 28 years old,
which sounds weird to say, but
at 28 years old we're wasting away potentially the best player to ever put a baseball uniform on, and we've wasted it away and we're too late on it. And now you have the 22-year-old version of Fernando Tatis who has he's got the more of the flash. He wants to. And that Trout doesn't have. And that's not knocking Trout.
Two very different styles.
Just two totally different people. Two different, things that make them click. Trout is more of the I'm just going to go to do my job and I'm going to let my play do the talking. To where Tatis, a very good player, his play does do the talking a lot. But at the same time, he's going to be a little bit vocal, and he's a pretty quiet guy too, though. He's not like big time in your face.
Just don't groove a 3-0 fastball and he hits it for a grand slam. but your boy C Hut kind of came with one. He said no. For years, Derek Jeter was the face of baseball, and I disagree with that too.
Well, I mean, in a way I do, and in a way I don't, and the one thing that Derek Jeter had going for him that these other two guys that we're talking about don't have going for him,
rings.
Well, Jeter played with the Yankees.
Being
being on the Yankees roster alone.
That was going to be my counterpoint is Jeter was the face of baseball in the Northeast. Everywhere else, yes, we knew about Jeter.
Yeah, but playing for the Yankees is like over the years playing for the Patriots in the NFL or playing for the Lakers in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
It's just alone putting on the Yankees pinstripes puts you at the top absolutely because. And it gives you're already
the captain of the Yankees.
You're already ahead of Mike Trout coming from Anaheim. Sure. They're the second team that you think about.
0
in
rings.
LA. Yeah, they're the second team that you think about.
Rings help a lot.
And then even for Tatis, and I think and obviously they're bringing a lot of star power in, and they're chasing. They want to get a ring, but it's still San Diego. I mean, when you think about California baseball. You're going to talk about the Dodgers before you talk about any other team in California. So the state of California, they are very, very fortunate for what they have right now. Baseball, in baseball, and you have the Dodgers who
they're the three best players in baseball.
Yes, and you have the Dodgers who possibly are like the best baseball team ever assembled.
You got Trout in Anaheim, Betts in L.A., and now Tatis going in.
I fucking forgot about Mookie Betts being in. That's how good they are. I forgot about Mookie Betts.
And the best part is, all three of those guys are going to be there for their respective teams for a long fucking time. Oh, yeah. So that leaves, there's always this disconnect when it comes to the West Coast versus the East Coast. Everyone says there's an East Coast bias, and rightfully so, because the East Coast has been better than the West Coast for how long? The Red Sox, the Yankees. All of these teams that are on the East Coast within the last 20 years have been more dominant and been better than the left coast. The left coast is like, where, how many dudes did you see sign with San Diego just to have their career die? Yep. When Eric Hosmer signed there, I said that same exact thing. I thought he was going there for the paycheck and his career was done. Now you look at that infield that they have, holy shit. Yeah. The left side of that infield is $650 million. Think about that. With him and Machado, which that again, the Major League Baseball should pub the shit out of those two, and they should have, kind of like that Elvis Andrus, Adrian Beltran, type of where they have fun with each other, which I'm sure that'll happen.
Yeah.
But pub that, I mean, granted, you're right. When it comes to Mike Trout, I don't think that the only way that you can get the pub train going on Mike Trout is if he wins a ring. Mm-hmm. Then you can pub about how wholesome he is and how patient he was and how he did his job day in and day out. But that's a different marketing tactic than hooking on to Tatis, who's, for lack of a better, when you compare him to Mike Trout, has his hair on fire. Yeah. They're two totally different personalities, and you could do it both ways.
But it's the franchises to me that are just. I mean, you're looking at Tatis at 22 years old, and the Padres are a team that have never tried to do anything.
No, and they're going in huge.
And they're fucking going all out because they have the guy in front of them. You have the best player that I've seen in my life in baseball in Mike Trout. And you have him locked up. He was the best player in baseball when he was 22, 23 years old.
And you did nothing
nothing to help him.
No.
You've had fucking shitty pitching ever since he's been there. You've had very, very mediocre lineup, too. I mean, you've had a lineup that Mike Trout has batted, for the most part, second in.
Yeah.
He should be the number 3 batter.
Yes.
And put the fucking guys around him. That guy, the numbers that Trout has today, to me, they're impressive and they're incredible when you look at his numbers, what he has at age 28 season. They could be so much better if he would have just had some help around
some protection.
him. Yes.
Yeah. And trust me,
his best true hitter that he's had around him has been a fucking, he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best hitters I've ever seen in Pujols, but 6 years too late.
Yeah. Had you had Trout when you signed Albert Pujols, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. But Pujols has been, he was one of my favorite hitters to watch.
There's another guy that missed the market as far as because baseball fucks it up over and over.
Yeah.
At one time, for a very, very long time, Pujols was the best player in baseball.
Yeah. Well,
it's called the Machine.
Look at look at the Braves nowadays. Look at the young roster that they have and their roster on the cheap.
A guy like Ronald Acuna, who is vocal and he does do a lot of stuff that could possibly stir some feathers a little bit, and he's been known to do that. And that would be the guy that I would, if I'm in charge of baseball and I'm in charge of the marketing, and
you're going to see his face everywhere.
Yes.
Especially if you look at the contracts that Acuna signed last year and Tatis signed this year, they're about $200 million apart. I think Acuna's is for 10 years, Tatis is for 13 or 14. Neither here nor there. But you would think with the discount you gave him, yes, market the shit out of him. Especially in, Major League Baseball, I guarantee every team has their own marketing program, but I would do it. I would be the most aggressive marketing person ever if I had just a personality like that. I don't even care if he's the third or fourth best dude on the team. Give me that guy. With just how his personality can connect with kids. That's something that Major League Baseball as a whole is trying to fix, is the average age of the fan. And we have these young kids now that are so relatable to high school kids, college kids. It's kind of like that whole I want to be like Mike. You need something in baseball. MLB itself should do something, and each individual team, because it seems like each individual team has their own young fucking stud. Market the shit out of them. Why? Market the shit out of them right now because they're one pitch away from not being there. So keep that in mind. And with baseball, guaranteed contract. So obviously anytime there's a big signing, everyone has to compare it to the Bobby Bonilla signing, which to me is the greatest, most genius contract in the history of sports. And I want to say that Tatis's contract is for 14 years, and even after that expires, the Mets will still be sending Bobby Bonilla like $1.5 million every year. So kudos to you, Bobby Bo. There's always Bobby Bo Day, which we will celebrate here on the podcast. But 2Ks, we kind of I was interviewed by someone, which she's probably watching right now, Rochelle, and she we talked about kind of the show flow and stuff like this. And so usually when we go off topic is when the gold hits. And yeah, I put it on the wrap-up screen because we got off Big Ten basketball, but that's when the gold hits. But I love it. And on top of that, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about NCAA hoops. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about baseball. But this was one hell of a show. I loved it. I mean, like I said, Big Ten basketball is where it's at. We're looking at a Michigan-Ohio State score, 54-50. Michigan in the second half. Looks like it just got to start. 16 minutes left. So I guarantee all of you, whether you're a Michigan fan, Ohio State fan, or you're Nick Berry and you're an Iowa fan, you will be watching this game, I'm sure. But 2Ks. Any other last thoughts, my friend?
Nope.
All right. Like I said, the gold happens when we go off trail. So, and yeah, everyone, go ahead. If you got value out of this, if you got entertained, or if you think we're completely stupid, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like, and a comment. And if you're feeling very froggy, as always, www.buyturboabeer.com. Help support the channel. We would love it. And if you do, we will feature you on the program. So, as always, everyone have a great week. And Jim Rome, we're still coming for you.